As a nation, the United States has experienced many changes on its way to the modern world. One such change was in the establishment of the American identity and nationalism in general. Today, the citizens of the United States rigorously defend and call themselves American, but this was not the case in the 18th century, when America was first planting its seeds. From November 15th, 1777, with the creation of the Articles of Confederation, the United States' first official government, to the ratification of the Constitution on June 21st, 1788, nationalism and the American identity went through a series of changes that would mold the nation into the one we know today.
The manner in which a nation governs itself will always reflect the psyche of its inhabitants. In the 18th century, the government of the United States took form in the Articles of Confederation. During this time, the American identity was more state-based than it was nationally based. The Articles of Confederation put more of an emphasis on statehood, giving almost no power to the federal government. For example, Article 3 of the Articles of Confederation says, "The said states hereby severally enter into a firm legal friendship with each other for their common defense, the security of their liberties and their mutual and general welfare, binding themselves to assist each other against all forces offered to or attacks made upon them." Instead of creating one unified nation, the Articles of Confederation create 13 mini-nations out of the existing colonies. The Articles themselves gave nation-like powers and responsibilities to the states. Article 3 seems more like the NATO agreement than anything else. Instead of collectively combining as a nation to fend off foreign enemies, the states acted as a part of a pact of nations, a firm legal friendship, in which it was a state's responsibility and not duty to come to the aid of another in time of need. Under the Articles of Confederation, the United States had no president and no executive leader to unify the nation. There wasn't even a unified currency, and each nation had its own dollar. America was as divided as ever, and a sense of nationalism was in its infancy.
As disaster strikes, unity often pursues. Under a weak and inefficient government, each individual state slowly grew apart as they pursued and acted for their own benefit. Trading became an issue due to the fact that each state had its own policies. Trading and profit has long been an anchor in American society. As trade grew apart, it took the nation's unity with it. Finally, enough was enough, and unity became a primary issue. In order to fix this problem, the government as a whole would need to accommodate the new policies. Representatives of each state eventually met, and America worked to set its differences aside for the economic welfare of the nation. And thus, the major ideas behind the Constitution started to take shape.
By 1777, a new American ideology was established and cemented into a document known as the Constitution. A state power was emphasized with the Articles of Confederation, so now was a federal government. A sense of unity and nationalism was now formed. America, an idea to have a unified body of states working hand in hand, would come to life. Changes were made, and the government was given more power. Finances were tightly controlled, and not only was taxation made possible, but a universal dollar was created to bind the states together. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution itself stresses the need for an executive power, and in 1789, George Washington was elected for his first term as president.
A Bill of Rights was also created that turned ideas such as religious tolerance that had been developing in America from colonial times into law. With the Constitution, nationalism flourished and unified the states. Slowly, the roots of a single nation were starting to grow, and the 13 components that once formed a divided America bonded together to form one working clock.
This change in ideology and identification that occurred in America is nowhere more apparent than in the transition from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. What once stressed the state power and control was now turned over to a federal government. As the Articles of Confederation turned the colonies into independent nations, the Constitution stressed and even enforced unity. With the amendments in the Bill of Rights, and age-old American ideologies were officially written up as laws. America was now defined.
Ultimately, this change from separation to unity put forth the mask of the American identity, giving birth to the America we know today.